The Tallahassee Fire Department mourning the loss of a veteran firefighter with more than a decade of service. TFD says Charles Chuck Droessler died yesterday after an off-duty medical emergency. Droessler was an engineer and paramedic working out of Station 2 off Sharer Road. A wreath wrapped in black ribbon is now hanging outside that station today in his memory. Both TFD and the Tallahassee's Firefighters Union sharing social media posts honoring Droessler and his years of service to the community. TFD describing him as dedicated and committed and asking everyone to keep his friends, family, and fellow firefighters in their thoughts. Droessler started at TFD in 2015. Funeral arrangements have not been announced.